Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how I made the bookstore model building from Thomas & Friends for my Knapford Station area. The first one I did, I made it out of card, which some of you may have seen it from some of my past videos that I made. So here's the first one I made, which I know, it's terrible. Back then, I was lost on how I was going to make the roof side sections from what I saw in the TV series. I attempted to make the sections out of card, but it didn't work out so well. So I left the card model as it was, until I could think up of another way to make them. Then one day, when I bought a set of this balsa wood bundle to renew the buildings for the Knapford town area, I suddenly had an idea to use the thick balsa wood pieces and shape them into the correct shapes for the roof sides of the bookstall. And with that, I found my answer on how I was going to do them. Before getting to the roof sides, I decided to remake the model building. So I had a look at some images from the Thomas & Friends fandom site on the Knapford Station page to help me. Then I went to the file of the original design I did it in, had a little play around with the colour corrections and getting the brick texture colour to match the ones from the images I saw. And once I found what I was looking for, I applied the changes and printed them out on paper. For the structure, I made it using the sheets of balsa wood from the pack, and I made sure the measurements were correct for the prints to be glued on, including the window and door slots too, as you can see here. Once the print was stuck down, I painted the inside of the structure black for the lighting inside effect. I also painted the back of the window and the door prints black too. And when they were dry, I glued them in the inside and stuck some bits of clear plastic on the window areas. Lastly, for the building, I added an LED strip and used some spare bits of balsa wood to hold the wires to one side so they can't be seen through the windows. Now, coming to the roof and the side sections, the behind the scenes page on the fandom site had 3 helpful images of the bookstore model that I used as reference to model the thick balsa wood pieces into the shapes viewed in the images. To start the side sections, I marked on the wood the thickness of the sections would be, as this scene shows you here, with the measurements on the end sides. Then, using a thin standing knife, I cut carefully along the lines to get the long strips of wood, which 4 strips were needed for the 2 parts of the side sections. The one part nearest to the sign shown in the reference images, I sliced 2 long thin bits away from each side of the 2 long wood strips. Then I used my multi-purpose tool with the sanding bit, and sanded down the corner edges to make them all curved and smooth. After measuring and cutting the strips to the lengths to go around the building, I cut a 45-degree bit inward off the section ends to make the right angle corners, and then glued the sections together into a wide U shape as this scene shows you here. For the very top area of the side sections, I cut a thin strip bit away from the front of the main strips while leaving a same thin bit at the top. And I cut another thin strip bit away from the bottom while leaving a medium-sized thin strip from the back to make this kind of shape like it shows in the reference images. And after doing the same procedure in making the wide U shape like I did with the last section, I fitted the sections onto the side top areas of the bookstore model building to check again and to see how much space was needed between the section and the sign, which as you can see leaves me a small height bit open on the very top of the roof, which to fill it I found I needed to use 0.1cm thickness of balsa wood. So I found some suitable bits for the top, slotted them in and marked the square holes that were on the top of the model building from the inside. Then I take the sections and the top bits away to cut the marked hole areas and then to paint them later. For the roof colour, I had to do some experiments mixing brown, yellow ochre, vermilion, black and sand paint colours together while trying to match the colour used in series 3 to 4 in Thomas and Friends. As soon as I found the colour I was looking for that matched the reference images, I started painting the roof sections and the top bits. I also painted some extra bits of balsa wood for a finish on the top of the roof later on. Once the paint was dry, I glued the top roof sections onto the top, then glued the last roof side sections onto the model, making sure the top of the last section was touching the bottom of the top roof section, so it will look something like this here. To finish at the back, I drew around the top back area with the sections added onto a piece of paper, then painted and glued it carefully onto the bag in its drawed out area. For the other finish that I mentioned earlier, that is around the square holes on the rooftop, I used the extra painted bits of balsa wood to make a small square open block to cover around the cabinet stands when placed in later. Then I glued the block carefully around one of the square holes on the roof and made another block for the other square hole, repeating what I did for the first one, which the result would look something like this here. And I think it looks really good to me, and matches near enough to the season 3 and 4 look. One last thing I did for the back, as I saw in a behind the scene image that the bookstall had 2 back pillars. So I cut out 2 rectangle paper strips and painted them the same colour as the roof. Once they quickly dried, I glued them carefully onto the back with a distance of 1.5cm away from the respective sides. And here is the finished model of the Knapford Bookstall building for my Knapford Station area. I even made small thin strips out of balsa wood for the window sills and door tops, same colour as the roof. In the area of the platform where it's supposed to be placed, I made a hole on the left side area to feed the light wires through. Then I placed the finished model into place on the platform. And then I slotted the cabinet stands back into place through their rightful holes I made in the bookstall model. And there you have it. The new and improved model is in place, ready for the layout. And I also have to say, in my view, it looks awesome and much better than the first one I did. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it really useful for your own makes too. If anyone has any tips or suggestions they think of that will be helpful for better scratch build model making, let me know in the comments below. Until then, bye for now.